amazing opening day of competition at the J-Bay Open. On the very first day of the waiting period, we were greeted by overhead swell. First thing in the morning, got shredded throughout the day with some solid breeze, a little bit of rain, tons of rainbows. We got to finish 16 heats throughout the day today, starting at 7:35. Now it's 5 o'clock in the evening local time. Hope you enjoyed the show. Welcome to the post show. Joe Chappelle alongside Peter Mel and Strider Wazalewski. These guys coming in hot from the other side of the planet. How's your jet lag feeling, Strider?
No jet lag. The cold's keeping me up. It's not that bad.
Keeping it nice and fresh.
I have to agree. Dawn till dusk all day today. I mean, what a day of competition. You pretty much called it, Strider, that we were going to be seeing an all-day run today. And you're absolutely right. We were able to get through a lot of heats.
Nailed it. Well, we had a lot of anticipation on the return of Mick Fanning to the jersey after that dramatic, really frightening and emotional final from last year where he split the points with Julian Wilson. Just the way the seeding would go, he happened to be in the first heat out of the gates against Connor Coffin and Alejo Muniz. Mick was happy to say to get that heat out of the way. There was a lot of hype in the lead up to it, even with that little bit of an ankle injury. He looked really fresh. Pete, how'd you see this win go down?
Well, it's good to have the last heat that we ran here include him in dramatic form, obviously, and then to see the first heat of competition for this event. We were always coming back, and Mick was the one who said it, and here he is. And of course, getting a heat win. You know, we had questions about his ankle and how it was going to perform. Didn't really show any signs in this heat at all, in my eyes.
Well, you know, he said it, you know, the adrenaline was going to take over in that situation, and it did, where you can't really feel it, you know, and you kind of power through that. You know, Alejo, obviously a great performer here, and Connor, you know, to me needed to live up to the expectation. He surfed really well, but not as good as this man. And I saw this guy on the beach, you know, Mick walking up the beach after this heat, and his foot was so noticeably swollen. Right, the tape around it is holding his ankle really tightly, and everything around it just looked puffy. And you know, he's definitely battling through, probably more than he's living onto. So, you know, true warrior, as we've seen in the past here, and still on the first heat of the morning.
Well, those are the telltale signs, right? You know, a bit of a swollen ankle, and it's there visibly. You know, all that adrenaline pushing through. Great performance in my eyes, just because of all the obstacles that he's been facing.
As we think about Mick Fanning's form here at J-Bay, he's made the last 3 finals of this event, one of the best of all time when it comes to this wave. 7-5, 6-1-7, sending Muniz and Connor Coffin into round 2. Alejo with 3 straight quarters at J-Bay, and Connor Coffin so dangerous from his free surfs out here in the past. The rookie has got a lot left in the tank when it's coming into round 2 action. That was great to see. Mick fighting what happened last year to look comfortable and confident in some waters that have haunted him in the past, keeping him as a threat for a win out here. But also big highlighted performances went to some goofy footers today. Former world champ Gabriel Medina hasn't got past a quarterfinal result in J-Bay in the past, but shows that he's very comfortable in colder conditions, and he hadn't really been surfing that much in between his big win at Fiji and coming here to South Africa, Pete.
Well, he said it was flat at home. You know, he went home to enjoy the home life, but not a whole lot of surf there. But sometimes that could be a blessing. You know, I think that you come into an event a bit more hungry. It showed in his performance. I mean, this was finally, we saw some big scores getting dropped, and it was done by Gabriel Medina. You know, again, he's going to be carrying a ton of momentum from Fiji and needs to carry it into the first round of this event here if he wants to vie for another world title.
Took over the first wave, got into the exit range, had a few waves in between where it kept him honest, and then finally capitalized at the tail end with a 17.27 combined total. Oftentimes, Strider, we talk about the best backhanders on tour. Do you think sometimes Medina gets left out of that conversation when he should be right up there?
Yeah, you know, I think he is one of the best, if not the best. I mean, this guy can do everything on the backhand. You know, he's floating, he's airing, he can get barreled. I watched him sneak into a couple tubes on the free surfs. So, you know, yeah, definitely getting left out of it, and for no reason. I don't understand, you know, why people overlook him. You know, maybe there's some other things going on there, but he's definitely one of the best backhand surfers out here.
What a great performance from Medina as he moves on straight into round 3. Remember, Medina still world number 2, fighting for his 2nd world title. A man that you always expect to be in the world title race, a 2-time champ of the J-Bay Open. Jordy Smith coming back to form, trying to keep his name in that top 10 picture. Had a pretty challenging heat today, Pete, because he had a man named Wiggly Dantes who actually had the highest single wave score of this matchup.
Yeah, he did, and he got it right out of the gates, and it's always hard to have somebody put a big score up against you and then battle back. But Jordy did that, you know, and I think that he even explained it in his post-heat interview that you can't let that bother you. He's just got to stick to his game, which he did. He didn't let it affect him. He didn't over-surf waves. He surfed really polished. You know, it's good to have him feeling 100% at this event because he's one of those guys that you would say is, you know, one of the top contenders to take a win here.
As we see the form from Wiggly Dantes, that was the wave he celebrated, a 9.27. Usually we see Dantes just continue to run away when he has that kind of form, but Jordy Smith looked intent to battle back. Pocket 8s on the decision, an 8.33 and an 8.10. We're trying to see who does a better combination of J-Bay than Jordy, Strider. It's hard to find some names there.
It looks like he's back to the comfort zone. You know, last year he had an injury. This year he just looks really good and comfortable, and that's what we like to see. You know, he said it after that. He takes 2 waves, and, you know, he knew that, didn't let that 9 rattle him, and just came out, comboed a couple turns, little head dip, and, you know, just finishing off on the end. I love it, Jordy.
This was a part of the day when Kelly had mentioned that it looked a lot cleaner and easier to surf than it was when you were in the lineup, and I think this is where Jordy kind of comes into a situation and has those bumps, but it doesn't affect him, and he looked so much smoother than his competitors.
Do you think that's the heavy foot playing through right there, Pete? I mean, obviously.
Oh, for sure.
You know, it's so hard. I mean, you're a big guy. You'd know better.
Yeah, I mean, especially down at the end part of this section here, those ribs, you can see them on the face there, but they were much bigger, much harder to negotiate than it's showed on screen.
Jordy Smith, 8.33, 8.10. Wiggly Dantes, you see that big score, 9.27. Unable to come back, Dantes and Melling will have to deal with round 2 action potentially tomorrow morning on the reseed. So a big jump for Jordy, keeping his name in the top 10 picture, and he's dying for another big win on his home break. You think of Jordy, you think of big high-profile athletes coming up in the draw as well that were standouts today. Julian Wilson finaled last season, but wasn't able to continue on with that final due to the drama that went down last season. But it looked like he kind of had some unfinished business to lay down here at J-Bay. In round 1, he probably turned in the best performance of the contest so far, Pete.
On the scorecards, for sure, he did that. But I think even in his performances, because of the waves that he was throwing away, you know, his performance right out on the first wave of the heat, gets a 9.17. I mean, it never looked back. Just looked so comfortable. Conditions kind of groomed a bit for him in this matchup. And like I said, he never looked back. He just looked so confident. I didn't see him make any errors.
The unfinished business, for sure. I mean, the way he attacked it, the way he was bottom turning up into the bowl, his combinations. I heard Kelly Slater say it after the heat, though. He's like, where do you go from there? You know, his performance was that good. It's almost kind of scary to think about it because, you know, sometimes guys peak too early. But this kid, he's on fire. He knows it. He talked about finding a good board last year at this time, and looks like he's, you know, he said he's found it again this time. So, I mean, he's deadly. He could come after this world title himself with performances like that.
And I think he needed this.
Yeah,
you know, it's one thing mentally. I mean, to have a lift of performance like that, it just is going to help him go through the rest of this event.
Wilson off to the next one. Remember the final at Margaret River, it was Wilson and this man, Sebastian Zietz. Both suffered a couple of tough results after that big final. Seabass also back to form. He looked loose and radical. He did some crazy maneuvers here where he thought he was going to go down. Laybacks off the top. Bass back to form. And we had rumors that right before this event he was feeling a little bit stiff. Now looking nice and clean, and he's going to be hard to beat, Pete.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I mean, we talked about how dirty his surfing was. I mean, Ross was mentioning it. That's the part that I think is a fan favorite. He's funny on land, but so spontaneous in the water, you can't keep your eyes away from it.
17.9 total for Sebastian Zietz, and he does have that unpredictable nature about himself. You can't quite predict what turn he's going to do off the top. He's got a lot left in his tank and still acting as a wild card this season, Strider, which would be amazing to see if he can go all the way.
Well, with performances like that, if he continues to just lay it down and surf like he's in a free surf, which is like what he's been doing, he's going to get the call back up because he's performing at a level of entertainment, right? And everybody loves it, even the competitors area. Every time he got up on a wave, the whole place lit up, and watching him and just psyching for him because he is stoked to be here. He's out surfing to the next level. It's that entertainment that we want to see, and that's what, you know, people tune in for. With performances like that, he's going to get the call up.
Incredible to look at the standout performances from an amazing opening day of competition. We're going to take a quick break here on the post show. When we come back, we will critique the form of world #1 Matt Wilkinson here at the J-Bay Open.
Soul, you got power, baby. Life is love, love is soul, and soul is power. Soul, power, soul, power, baby.
All right.
World #1 man wearing the Jeep yellow jersey all season long, Matt Wilkinson. Radical backhand attack.
This is one of my favourite waves to surf in the world, and having the Jeep Leaders jerseys at the start was kind of felt like a little bit of a novelty, and now I feel like I've really earned it.
Vertical whip off the top for Wilco. Another carve to the inside corner.
I'm the guy that everyone's wanting to beat at the moment, so that's a pretty cool feeling. Yeah, to hold the jersey all year is my goal for sure, and it's going pretty well so far, so hopefully I can put a big result on the board at this event and kind of have a little bit more space and get a better grip on that jersey.
Always great to hear from world #1 Matt Wilkinson, who's getting very comfortable in the Jeep yellow jersey, heading into stop number 6 of the Samsung Galaxy Championship Tour. Welcome back to the post show. It's freezing here on set. The sun's going down behind us. We're thinking about the form of Matt Wilkinson, Pete, and Strider, and we've critiqued him at every venue. He got critiqued early on his forehand attack, turned in a final at the Fiji Pro. Now with moving on into round 3, he's already guaranteed to be world #1 heading into Tahiti. He's now saying, okay, he surprised himself. He admits that to the start of the season, but now he feels like he's absolutely earned it. Is he surfing like a world champion for you, Pete?
I don't know. I feel like he's been been tested, and he's been able to get the wins. You know, today's performance wasn't probably one of his top-notch performances. I mean, his heat totals were fairly low, especially in round 2. I mean, that was a bomb that he was able to somehow find a shelter and hide out and not get blown out of this event, because that was a tough one. I mean, there was 2 major opportunities for Steve to turn the heat, and he fell just to whatever the slip off. And you know, again, it feels like destiny is on Wilco's side, and he can do no wrong.
Well, one thing that we noticed, Strider, when we look back at this heat, Matt Wilkinson's taking on local boy Steven Sawyer, who won the trials, was conditions did really look really challenging at this point before it got groomed and glassy once again in the afternoon.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting what Pete Mel was just talking about. He dodged a bomb. You know, really, it's like I talked to Wilco's dad, and he said, you know, it's gone against him, not his way, for so many years that maybe this is the year it just goes for him all year, and rightfully so. And it has. You know, he definitely has scrapped through some heats, but rightfully so. And you know, maybe it is that year that it goes his way each and every heat, which it seems to be. I mean, he's held on to that jersey, even performing like he just did in that heat, which was not world title form whatsoever, with less than a 9-point total, but he still won the heat, and he's getting through, which is all that matters to hold on to that jersey.
And also seeing Steven Sawyer with some rare falls for himself. Super talented local surfer, took out the trials, but ends up turning in a 4.0 as his top number. So a bit of a survival matchup for Matt Wilkinson as we check out the Jeep leaderboard, still with a massive total out front. Even if Wilco went down in round 3, Medina would win this event. Medina would still be 250 points behind Matt Wilkinson heading into Tahiti. So for Wilco, he knows Medina is so talented in the South Pacific with a former win under his belt in Tahiti. Wilco needs to capitalize on an event which we would call his pet venue on tour here at J-Bay and move on to the final series.
Yeah, and especially moving into Tahiti, where you would say again that Wilco probably not the most comfortable, even self-admitted that he's not the most comfortable there at Tahiti. But he said that in the past, you know, and the year that we witnessed, you know, the biggest year the entire 2 years ago, there was those days where he was scared out of his britches, but he went out there and he went big. And I know that he can do it. He's brave enough to do it. Even though he'll self-admit that he's a little bit frightened about it, he'll go out there and perform.
Yeah.
You put the jersey on, man, and the spotlight's on you. You're going to go.
It's like you just said. I mean, all he has to do is find that inside rail, right? He's falling out of the sky at Chopu on that big year, on the back rail, kind of falling over backwards. If he falls out of the sky, finds that inside rail, all he's got to do is catch it in there and stand in the barrel, and he's going to come flying out. So maybe the jersey will help him out. The gold, a little heavier inside rail, he's going to come through.
Such an interesting year for Matt Wilkinson when you think about it, thinking he's got to close this thing out before heading into the Bonsai Pipeline to make a decision, because guys that are in the world title race have done so well there in the past. Medina, number 2 in the world, back-to-back finals of the Pipe Masters, and the guy who's number 3 in the world calls Pipeline his backyard. John wants this thing to go down to Pipe. Florence was on fire today in round 2. He had to get sent to the sudden death round, but he opened up against Rivera with a 9.57 peak.
And he was competing the entire heat. It wasn't as if he just laid down after this wave. I mean, this was a big score, one of the biggest of the day. He did it barrel riding and then searing turns like this where he just unloads. That's the type of surfing we've been accustomed to from John. But even he sat out the back and wasn't going to just settle for a 4 or a 5 to turn the heat. He needed another 8. Ended up getting a 7.7 and taking a substantiated heat win over this.
He needed to get that score because of what Alex did on this wave. This is the first wave I've seen Alex surf this whole year. He blew up on this thing. This next turn where he just goes straight up into the bowl. He drifts the tail out a little bit right there. I mean, he's just, you know, he's on fire coming up right there. That was the turn I loved, you know, in this heat. And Alex finally showed up. We got to see some of why he's on tour right there. And, you know, John had to back it up. He had to come in strong, and he did.
Doesn't it always seem like anybody who comes up against John, though, lifts their game? And that's always the case against John. It's like all of a sudden you're like, whoa, where did that come from? We haven't seen that all year long from Alex. But against John, knowing that you have to bring it to that level, it's good to see. Fun to watch.
Something to that. The top 34 have so much respect for John. Most of them call him the best surfer in the world, and they're free to do their best against him. The 8.17 for Ribeiro was his best number so far in his rookie year on tour. Unfortunately for Ribeiro, that's his 6th straight 25th exit from a championship tour event, and John Florence will be moving on into round 3. It looks like he is just starting to heat up, which is really fun to watch, Strider.
Interestingly enough, you know, back to Ribeiro, he was still smiling after that heat, after he got another 25th. I mean, there's something to be said about that. Personally, I think I'd be you know, ready to jump off a building, but he's just still standing up there smiling. He's just grateful to be here, which my hat's off to you, buddy. Still smiling up there.
Robert's a cool cat. Yeah, he'll be ready to compete big time when it comes to Tahiti. Well, the final heat of the day was Ace Buchan and Keanu Singh. Ace took the big win, and he's with Rosie Hodge.
Well, Ace, rounding out the last heat of the day, obviously that round 2 is so nerve-wracking. It also seemed like the conditions seemed to slow right down.
Yeah, the waves in that heat, or the lack of waves, probably made it more nerve-wracking, but I felt super comfortable. I was just like, you know, try to wash the morning heat off. I was pretty unhappy with the way I kind of performed this morning, and although that was a slow heat and low scoring, I was happy with the way I surfed. And yeah, that's the ocean here at J-Bay, especially with a high tide. It kind of seems to suck all the swell out. But yeah, look, it's a win, and I'm stoked to be through to round 3.
And also you found that refocus, obviously, in Fiji. You could just see you finding that form. So bringing that in through to J-Bay, that must feel pretty good, finding that stride.
Yeah, I feel great. I just got to tap into that zone, and you know, I feel like it's right there, but it's just about, you know, doing it in the jersey. And this is a wave I love. It's a place I love, and you know, it feels really special coming back here all the time, and it's really cool to be here with my family as well. And you know, just every morning waking up here and seeing the corduroy and kind of smelling Africa is pretty special.
All right, Ace, well, thank you for your time. Go get warm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie. Great to hear from Ace Buchan, who's been dangerous here in the past, former semifinalist. He's also gotten close to a perfect score, 987 on his backhand on a very demanding wave. Off to round 3. Strider Pete, we have a lot of heats to look forward to still to finish up the second round of competition, which could come up first thing in the morning. Strider, is there a heat that you're looking forward to seeing going down?
I want to see Heat 9. I want to see Connor Coffin and Adam Melling. We already know Melling's got great form out here, but Connor, you said it earlier, you know, in the free surfs he's been touted, but in heats, I want to see it. I want to see him really bring it, live up to the pressure and the hype, and come through with a great heat.
There was flashes of brilliance from Connor in that first round heat. I mean, we could see him put it together. I like the Alejo Muniz, Nat Young. I think Nat Young's got to have to return to form, being that he has been having a rough couple of results lately. Needs to turn it around.
I love the heat with Dusty Payne as a wild card call-up for this event, doing his best so far in a CT jersey. Also has Stu Kennedy, who's so deadly on right-hand point breaks. Check out the heat draw on WorldSurfLeague.com, and we'll see it for Dawn Patrol at 7:30 tomorrow morning. Take care. This copyrighted event broadcast is produced by the World Surf League for broadcast around the world and may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without the written consent of the World Surf League.
This is the J-Bay Open.
The best right-hand point break in the world. Fanning showing his experience, showing his confidence mentally with a huge first heat win of the morning.
No Igarashi on his first wave and looking for more on the inside. A clean barrel and a nice big exit for Kanoa to reappear.
Layback hack with a lot of power. Medina putting some pressure on Payne and Ribeiro now.
Slater in the dying stages of his first round heat moves ahead of Felipe Toledo.
Wiggly Dantes is about to get his first score in. Squares up vertically and belts it. Perfect timing and control, and explodes again off the lip.
What a wave choice.
Julian Wilson has the opportunity to extend his lead. Surfing with amazing speed and a lot of precision. The Australian on fire. He's going to be hard to beat. Sebastian Zietz has just found the rhythm.
John Florence pull into the barrel and he makes it. The line now jams it on the mid-face, pulls in one more time. It's staying wide open. A double barrel for Florence, and there's still more to give.
That was over the top aggressive